I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, October 15th, 2018 to order. Charlie, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Charlie. Public forum. Is there anyone wishing to address the board in public forum? Hearing none, I'd like to add to the agenda, and let's call this 2.A, and that is consideration for a special town meeting on 11/15 for the purpose of acquiring a conservation easement. You should have information in your packet as well as on our electronic devices. Is there a motion to add that?
I'll make the motion to add that to the agenda.
Second.
Any further questions? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
And the date is earlier.
It's November 5th.
It's November 5th,
Fifth.
that's right. 11/5, that's right. I have it there, I just read it wrong. Motion carries. I'd also at this time like to add another agenda item, and that would be, bear with me, it would be under request for use of town property, 10.4, Guilford High School Theater Arts Program. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Call a question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, motion carries, so we've added that in. That brings us to item 2, and that is the acquisition of why don't I read it to you? Consider, this is for us to, a town meeting, establishment of a town meeting on November 5th at 8:15 in the morning prior to the next Board of Selectmen meeting, to consider and act on the following. Set a town meeting date of November 5th, 2018, 8:15 at the Guilford Town Hall to vote on acquiring a conservation easement for Durham Meadows subdivision, Assessor's Map 85, Lot 46, in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes 47-42C and Town Charter 7-7. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second? Discussion, conversation? We're good on this? Okay. Thank you. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Item 3, approve the minutes, October 1, 2018, regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any comments, questions, additions, deletions, et cetera? Hearing none. Call call the question on, did I already get
Yes.
the, yes, I did, I'm sorry. Call the question. All in approval?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals? Motion carries. Item 4, Finance Director, Mary Jane. And 4.1 is to receive the monthly report from the Finance Director. Mary Jane, so that you don't have to explain this, I know you've been short-staffed in the office over the last couple of weeks with vacations, et cetera. Additionally, we've had some challenges because of short staffing in the tax collector's office. We are collecting all the taxes, however, there are some journal entries that have not yet been made.
Right, well, the key to that statement is that all the money is deposited
Deposited.
in the bank.
Right.
Not all of the adjustments are made between the tax collector's office and the finance office,
right.
mainly because of staffing in the tax collector's office. But all the money's in the bank, it's just not all reflective in our reports.
Right.
We're catching up, it's just the adjustments that we don't have at this point.
So where would we be if the adjustments were made, say compared to last year percentage-wise?
We'd still be a little bit lower than
A little bit
last year.
lower. Okay,
Mhm.
but not a
Yeah.
But not
concern.
7 points.
No, no,
Okay.
no.
Good.
No.
Okay, sorry if I stole your thunder, and the good news is.
I have nothing else to say.
And the good news is that we have hired the assistant tax collector, started last week. Actually, it was an internal hire. Michelle Murray from Town Hall South is now the assistant tax collector, so. And Debbie is very happy to have a full complement of resources. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
Did you guys want to look at any of the capital reports, or did you have, or should I say, do you have any questions on any of the capital reports that are submitted? Okay, all right. First thing on here then is expenses. I just want to note that the totals in the 2017 line are off. So last year compared to this year, the town last year would have been 42.8, and this year is 42.61. So we're right on track there. Bottom line was 28.8 last year and is 26.8 this year. So looking year to year, we're pretty good at this point. I don't know if anybody has any specific questions. It's really not too much.
I don't.
Okay.
It's good.
Yeah, that's good.
We'll skip to revenue, I guess.
Yep.
And you will see I do have the note regarding the tax collector's office on the report, which I believe we would be at about right around 50%. So it's a little bit higher, not quite as high as last year, but the adjustments I expect would have been at about 50%, give or take a couple of points at right now.
Couple tenths of a point.
Yeah, yeah. So, other than that, the only thing I wanted to note is you'll see down in other departmental, which is our state revenue. Our state revenue is coming in more as expected
This year,
from
yeah.
prior years. You'll see 20% at this point as opposed to the 2% last year. So things
a
are
timing.
somewhat back on track this year. I won't say it's 100% back on track,
Right.
but much closer than we've seen the last couple of years.
Gotcha.
Great. In finance department revenue, the interest income is
Yeah.
great.
Correct, yeah, as
Terrific.
expected this
Yep.
year. Mm-hmm.
That ought to make certain members of the Board of Finance happy.
Yeah, we're not really doing anything
Oh,
different
that's-
than we had. It's just a matter of the funds that we have available are allowing
Mhm.
us to do that.
Exactly.
Changes, the school's done, so
Mhm.
we don't have
Mhm.
those expenses that are going out
Right.
prior to bonding.
Mhm.
So,
It's just, I
Balances are higher.
think we also need to remember that the Board of Finance, when they set the mill rate, adjusted the amount that they anticipated getting from tax, from the interest. And that number was $150,000, so they added it now.
So at
We didn't-
111
Yeah,
before.
and that was just an
So,
assumption
yeah.
when they set the mill rate, so.
right, but we knew back then
that-
we would
Yep.
be able to meet that. So we readily agreed to that adjustment
Right.
in the budget
And
when
if-
they set the mill
And
rate.
and if this holds true, we're gonna exceed that by a significant amount as well.
We could as well, yes.
Great.
Good.
Good. Thank you.
All right, anything else, Mary Jane? Great.
Do you want to look at medical or anything?
We can.
I just asking before I sit down.
That's it.
Before I sit down.
A better month?
It's a better month. Our advisors are still working on August numbers. That information has not come in yet, but we're still looking into that reason. But as you can see, we are absolutely back on track for the month of September. And had August not be so high, we would be pretty much budget neutral
Right.
at this point. So as soon as we know what that is, we'll let you know.
Good, and then we're still too early to see the catastrophic
Correct.
Montgomery.
Right, it'll be a
so-
couple of months before we
before that
really
really
start
starts to
seeing the
show.
impact there.
Good. All right. Anything else you want to take a look at? Anybody look at the warrants or not even? Yeah, good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Reggie. Okay. Back up. Number 5 on our agenda, I think it's 6 on our document, but 5 on the paper document, is town engineer, Janice Blazey. Good morning, Janice.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good. Janice, you've got 2 items, right?
Correct. The first item is the proposal from Malone and McBroom to assist the town in the response to the draft consent order we received from Connecticut DEEP. The proposal is the start of really responding to the draft and to formulate some responses and help with negotiations regarding the consent order. And there'll be some limited work done on one of the mitigation projects that was suggested in the consent order as well, but for the most part, it's gonna be setting the record straight in terms of the amount of impacts to tidal wetlands. We believe there's some mistakes in the actual numbers that are presented in the consent order, as well as, negotiating with DEEP in terms of schedules and the actual scope of the work that,
That needs to be done.
yeah.
And I think it's important to note, we're gonna have an executive session on the entire consent order at the end of the meeting today. But this addresses a portion of what we anticipate needing Malone and McBroom for as part of the ongoing negotiations on the consent order. So this is, there is a strong likelihood that there will be more coming.
Yes, absolutely, and it also, just so you know, it does include, a limited amount of their time to assist if we proceed much with Army Corps as well.
Good. All right. Okay, so we have, what we have is, for our consideration and approval, is a proposal from Malone McBroom for services working with the town to respond to Connecticut DEP consent order for NOVs, LAS 2017-3910V, LIS 2017-3932V, and LIS 2018-3979V, as well as a response to federal mitigation requirements that will likely develop with Army Corps of Engineer violations. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second? Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals? Hearing none, motion carries. 5.2?
Okay, this is a proposal we received from Summerhill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors out of Madison. They've been selected by the Standing Building Committee. They had an RFP out over the summer for on-call services, and this was one of the civil engineering firms that was selected. This is to move ahead a project that has been underway for a while, but has stalled with the recent changes in the engineering department and reduced staff we've been experiencing. So the town has lot SIP money of about $1.5 million allocated to the reconstruction of Nut Plains Road from Stepstone to Goose Lane. It does not include the path at this time. It's merely a road reconstruction and drainage improvements project. The proposal you see is for $48,500. It's a very reasonable proposal for a project of this scope. Typically, you see engineering service fees in the range of 8 to 12%, and this is well under that. So I think it's a good bargain for the town to get this work underway right away and try and get caught up in terms of the funding.
For those who aren't familiar with the LOTSIP program, it's a federal program passed through from the state through the state that is for feeder roads within the community.
So so it used to be under the urban program, which was the federal
Right.
funding, and then it was somewhat onerous because it was federal funding in terms of the towns doing local road projects using that funding. So Connecticut DOT and the state, with legislation, changed the funding source to be state bonds.
Right.
And so then now DOT is using the urban funding for their own regional projects. But again, it's only collector roads in the town that qualify for this type of funding to do improvement projects.
What are some examples of the other roads that this money's been used for?
I believe it was used also on Westlake Avenue, and I believe it was used on Stepstone Hill, or Stepstone Hill may have still been urban
Urban
funds,
fund.
but it's kind of that
The
same kind of.
Right.
Will the lot SIP funds pay for this engineering work as well, or just the actual construction?
No, it only covers construction, so it's on the town to do the engineering work and the design, and then the funds can only be used for construction.
Okay. And would we normally do the engineering within your department if we didn't have the staffing issues? Is that the reason that we're doing it
Yes,
this way?
yes, yes.
Is there a sort of a starting off point? In other words, are there previous engineering reports for this length of road, either in your department or available somewhere else? In other words, from when it was last done, or Has anybody, you said this has been stalled for a little while. Had there been any work done before this is going to be done?
Yes, there was, I believe, a public hearing, I don't know exactly when, by the engineering department, when they were first introducing also the pathway
Yeah.
included in the project. And I think that was also including part of the Nut Plains Road from Goose Lane to State Street. That's a local road, it's not a collector road, so that's not part of this project. So there has been outreach to the public. It's been funded since fiscal year 15 funds, I believe, so there is a concept design that's in the office. And there's a survey that was already done for the project, so there's, some work already underway on the project, and this is just to get it to completion and out to bid.
And you're good enough to bring up, this does not include the actual engineering for the pathway or any other
No.
issue that's been discussed, but is there anything inconsistent with what this work is gonna address and eventually considering the pathway? I mean, in other words, if they do this, is it gonna either advance that or prevent it from being able to happen?
So the focus of this project is really as much in the, pavement oriented as possible. There obviously, if there needs to be some changes in horizontal or vertical alignment due to some deficiencies in the road with sight lines or, some dangerous situations, then it may go a little bit beyond the pavement area to do some grading and realignment. But we're really trying to stay as narrowly focused in the right-of-way as possible with this project. The probably biggest impact is going to be the intersection of Nut Plains and Goose Lane. We're trying to reorient that intersection, so that hasn't been, the concept plan is to kind of tee it up instead of have it at that,
Why?
yeah, that, sharp angle that it's at right now, for safety reasons and for maneuvering of, vehicles and plows and fire trucks and things like that. So that would probably be the area where you'll see the biggest change, but there is a lot of right-of-way there, as you know,
Yeah.
it's quite expansive
Yeah.
there. So we're really trying to minimize any impacts to adjacent properties or.
So not to belabor this, but to follow up with what Lou said, this plan started in 2015, really.
Right.
So that was before any discussion of any path or trail. I
Right, the
think.
funding, I think, was requested by the town through this program in 2015.
So just for people listening to this or reading about it potentially in the paper, this is really a separate project that is affecting the same area that has recently been talked about, but it's not connected to that trail path concept really in any
Right,
way.
and just so you know, we will hold a public information meeting for the project once we have a preliminary design developed with Summerhill. So we have some concept plans right now, it needs to be further defined to really understand any potential impacts beyond the pavement. And that we're cognizant of, trying to make sure we don't impact significant trees or working those types of impacts into the project. And it's a very flat road, there's a lot of puddling and things like that. That's really we're trying to improve the drainage on the road.
The short answer again is no. No. And by the way, just for those who are interested, the original monies that came for the Nut Plains Pathway were the alternative transportation funds. And I think I've mentioned to you folks that we've gotten COG to agree to reallocate those funds to the intersection of Route 77 and 95. Arguably the most dangerous intersection here, to create an opportunity for sidewalks from Adams all the way up to the Arts Center, as well as over to back over to the public safety complex. So just to make sure, this is a standalone project. It got wrapped up in the Nut Plains discussion, appropriately so, because the projects would have had some kind of overlap. But this is also, and Janice and I have identified another project related to this for lot SIP consideration, and that is from the end of Nut Plains and Goose Lane, all the way down to Goose Lane to 95. That's the continuation of that. I call them feeder roads,
right.
but collector roads, and that is when we have identified some preliminary costs, and we are in the mix for getting those funds through the Council of Government. And that's been on the design for road improvements for a number of years as well.
Yeah, there were some limited areas of improvements, and looking at the road in its entirety, it was felt it would be a good continuation and opportunity of funding came up again through lots of, they were calling up for some project ideas, and thought that might be a good way to kind of complete that entire corridor.
Everybody good? All right, is there a motion to approve them?
Second.
Thank you, Charlie. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, recusals?
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries. Public Works Director, Tom Fillion. Morning, Tom.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How's everybody?
We're good. We're here to discuss and take possible action on the award of bid number 2-1819-2019 six-wheel dump truck and snow removal package.
Yes.
I think this was originally scheduled to be on our agenda
Right.
last time around or last month, but Tom's been working with the commission in terms of identifying specifically what they want to purchase. So go ahead.
Okay, that being said, after the meeting we had on Thursday night, we came to an agreement, finally. It was small issues. To recommend the following, and that would be to accept the Freightliner. We're gonna go with a different truck.
Yeah.
At this point, we're really impressed with certain aspects of it. And then also with the package from HP Fairfield.
Okay.
And then go with this, what's called a 12 connection smart switch.
Right.
That allows the connections to be done behind the seat of the cab instead of underneath the cab,
Okay.
which makes it a lot easier,
Yeah.
a lot less work for the mechanics. And also with a 7-year engine and after treatment warranty, which was, we were just gonna give up on that. That was excellent. So this replaced the 91 truck.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is in
You
much.
can't get any more out of that?
No, we really can't.
I don't.
Okay, and the total cost is $220,445, and it actually comes under budget by $15,555.
Excellent.
Nice.
Okay, so
Tom, I know when we did the Max before, and the new Max, after we got the truck, we realized we had to buy a package of computer programs to keep up with the maintenance
Yes.
and that type of thing. And it was not inexpensive, and it was training and that type of thing. I'm assuming we're gonna have to do this with a brand change. Is that part of this package? Are we anticipating it? I mean, it was substantial. I remember the Mac.
right, the Mac one was substantial. I think that we have a little bit of help within the first year, in general, but I'm sure we're gonna have to get a new program for that too. And
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to eventually.
Right.
I mean, is this, I know we have to put it out to bid, but one of the dealers is very local in Branford, right?
right,
Okay. All right.
okay.
Anything further? Any other question? Call the question on approving $220,445 for the six-wheel dump truck. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Recusals? Hearing none? Motion carries. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Tom, when do you think we'll get this?
Probably next year.
Next year, that's it.
Yep, because it's gonna be behind on manufacturing now, so.
Okay.
You want to get to that 30-year mark on the 91.
No, not
I know
really.
you-
That's not a goal.
We'll we'll be walking if
Yeah.
that's the case.
And by the way, we saw you smiling about the improvements to the intersection.
Yes. Definitely on that. That's a much-needed road to be taken care of, yeah.
Good. Thanks, Tom.
Good to hear.
Thanks.
All right. Item 7, Fire Department.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Chairman Wilson and Assistant filling in for.
Yeah. Did you think he was just in the morning?
Don't stop.
No, I know. First of all, thank you.
Just in case he might show up.
Yeah, I know, I'll leave the seat vacant right here, although you want him on this end probably. First of all, thank you for having us this morning, and as was requested the other day, there isn't really anything to hand out or to provide you in advance. I know, Matt, you had received an earlier email, but we're here this morning to discuss and bring forth to you for your approval two grants. One is the Assistance to Firefighters Grant, which is 7.1, and the second one is the Port Security Grant. The first grant is a grant that was applied for last year in 2017. It was for a specific project. It's for the exhaust ventilation system for Station 4 and Station 5, where we now house, as you know, full-time career staff up there. The amount of the grant, and by the way, this will be consistent with what we have at fire headquarters, at the headquarters on Church Street. Eliminates any potential for obviously cancer or exhaust or anything that related to that and stuff like that. The grant itself that was submitted was done by one of our captains. The total of the grant was $51,882. The federal funding piece of it is $47,182. That's what we will receive. The town or the fire department's budget will absorb the $4,700, which is 10%. We're required to fund, if you will. But we feel the commission, in conversation with the administration, that we have the dollars in our present budget, and we do not need to come back to the town to ask them for $4,700. Okay. Specifically on the exhaust or the ventilation system, if there's any questions, Assistant Chief Show will answer anything. I do want to insert here that the commission discussed this at length. We are all unanimous that we accept it and that we moved it forward to the Board of Selectmen this morning.
The only question I have is that 4,700, where do you think you're gonna find that in your budget, or is it too early during the fiscal year to make that determination?
I would say right now it's early, but we can look in two different spots, one being under building maintenance, and the other is in other areas such as, I believe we said, training, and there's another spot. There's three different locations that we could look.
Good.
Okay.
Any other questions? And this is an exhaust system, so it takes exhaust from the running vehicles in the
Right.
station out, so the vehicles can be warmed up prior to going out.
Each one of the vehicles has there's a ventilation, there's a pipe that comes down, it's attached to the exhaust pipe. And when the vehicle starts up, the exhaust goes out, vents out through the building. Once the vehicle leaves, it detaches automatically and it goes back. When they come back in, they attach it back on.
Beautiful.
So it eliminates the exhaust in the building totally.
Good. If there's nothing further, is there a motion to accept the Assistance to Firefighters Grant in the amount of $47,182?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Call the question, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
7.2, Ken.
Yes, the second grant that was received is a port security grant. That is in the total of $13,500, and that's 100% funded. There is no portion that the town would have to, or we would have to, provide, if you will, to this grant. This grant is strictly for the fireboat.
Okay.
It's for vessel navigation. It allows for communication, upgrades in communication with the Coast Guard. And I'm going to defer, since we have a Coast Guardian right next to me, so I'll let him go on, but pretty much that's what that entire package is. Go ahead, Mike.
So we applied under maintenance and sustainment under the Port Security Grant Program, and anything under $25,000 is considered a micro grant, and there's no cost match on it. Specifically, the Coast Guard is updating their electronics equipment to a newer system, and we applied under this specifically for it's about, what was it, $13,500 for improvements for that specific piece of equipment, and it was approved at the FEMA level in Port Security. and sent back to accept the award. So there's no cost match on it, and it upgrades our technology to current technology that the Coast Guard's going to.
Beautiful.
Great.
I'll move that.
Need a second?
Sure, I mean, what's the
Where's the
downside?
for-
There's
yeah.
nothing here. This is,
Before we call the question, I just want to applaud the department and the commission for being aggressive in seeking out
Yeah.
these grants to
Yeah.
mitigate the equipment upgrades that we need to protect the community and our firefighters. So, nice job. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
All right, item 8, receive and discuss Bloom Shapiro audit of land use departments. Discuss may be a little bit of an overreach since you just got it in your packet. But what the discussion portion of this is, what I'd like, and I've been through this and I've shared it with a couple of folks within the organization, and we're collecting input for going back to Bloom Shapiro. If there are some things that don't appear to be consistent with the way we want to approach things, or what we understand to be the findings. So if there are questions, would you submit them via email to myself, copy Tracy on it, and Tracy will then distribute a full list of questions or comments back to you folks, and then we'll synthesize that and get to Bloom Shapiro. We'd like to start moving on this pretty quickly. So if you could before the end of the week, if possible, collect your thoughts and get them to us collectively. So there are a couple of things here that I just want to highlight. One of which is the primary recommendation is that we have technological components in place today that are being completely underutilized, and they are advising that we progress through using the tools tools and software packages that we've already purchased and acquired, but doing some things, better process mapping and more training for our employees to better utilize the services, as opposed to abandoning the current platform, which is through Tyler Systems and ties into the Munis platform. So that is one of the recommendations, that we move forward and continue to enhance and better utilize what we've already invested in. So I appreciate your attention to that this week, if you wouldn't mind. All right. Item 9, discuss and take possible action on the creation and charge of a town facilities task force and appoint members. As you may recall, this board approved last month and then subsequently the Board of Finance approved it as well, an allocation of $50,000 for a facilities task force to move forward. We have, as we indicated at the time, Gary McKelney had volunteered to spearhead this, and I've taken him up on his offer. And since that time, we've received request to participate from a number of folks, including Barbara Casey, who's in the audience today, who served on the Guilford High School Building Committee. So as I look down this list, it's full of folks who have significant
Bill
experience.
Yeah, build it, yes.
Built it, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and again,
It'd be a hard one to beat. that one.
that's right, that's right. So and it's clearly, once again, it confirms my belief that there are talented and dedicated folks in this community who are willing to give their time, their talents, and their passions to continue to make Guilford a wonderful place to reside. So with that, there are 7 folks who have
Can we
self-identified.
just do them all
We
together?
can do them all together.
There isn't one that I am not proud to endorse.
Good.
it's an impressive list.
Good.
Can you read the list?
Yeah, I'll read the list. Gary McKelney, John Ireland, Bill Mulligan, who also had experience on the Guilford High School Building Committee,
Yeah.
Barbara Casey, Robert Hartman Jr., Siobhan Towers Bennett, and Jason Marchi. So with that, is there a motion?
I moved, okay.
And seconded?
Second.
Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. They will be, Gary is very aggressive, he's gonna try to get a meeting as early as this week. We already have a loose charge in place, as defined, and a step-by-step process. I think the first piece of business is data collection. So Kevin, is that spreadsheet almost done? Good, in terms of identifying, and then they will move forward to meeting with all of the department heads to determine what their facilities requirements are. So I look forward to this. This is probably gonna be an 18-month project, start to finish. Yeah, in that timeline. And it's gonna address some significant issues, not the least of which, and I don't mean to prejudge what you're gonna be doing, but the Public Works facility and Park and Rec facility down there. Because long-term, if we don't have a decision about what we're gonna do with that facility for the long term of this community over the next couple of years, shame on us. So that's gonna be a significant focus of that effort.
Not
Well,
making
the
a
image-
decision is making a decision.
To
Yeah,
do
it
nothing,
can be.
right.
And that's kind of how we've operated in the past.
I think the inventory is gonna be an eye-opener.
Yeah.
Right, there are pieces of property scattered throughout this town that are
Right.
strange. I mean,
Exactly.
it just, why do they?
Right, and I
I'm
know
looking
you're-
forward to that.
Yeah, I know your board had some discussions, including from Gary, that there are some completely disassociated parcels of land that the town ought to put back on the tax rolls.
Yep.
Right? And we certainly should
Exactly.
consider that. Great. All right, thank you very much. All right, request for use of town property. Charlie, you want to cover all these at one motion?
Yes, I do,
Okay.
yep.
Is there a motion to approve the 4 requests for use of town property? As
I think we should take it once, but just read what they are.
Okay. The first is, act on a request from the Cove Center for Grieving Children to place a sign in the green advertising its run for the Cove taking place October 21, 2018. There's another that is from the Guilford Community Fund to place its annual campaign sign on the southwest corner of the green from October to March. And then there is another that is Bimbler's Bluff to use portions of the town's trail
I
system.
thought that was a typo or something.
No.
Well, that's an annual event.
Yeah.
It's an annual event.
Run through mud.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
A system
You
for
learn
its,
something every day.
it's for.
You don't run it?
It's for a 50K trail race, not a 5K,
I support
right,
it,
Lou?
though.
Which is about as far as we'd get.
Yeah.
Taking place October 21, 2018. And that's also contingent upon the Conservation Commission approval as well. And then last is the Guilford High School Theater Arts program for a sign out there promoting their upcoming play starting October 25th. So there's the 4 of them. Is there a motion? And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. And correspondence, anybody have anything under correspondence? No, committee reports, Lou? Nothing today?
Nothing today.
Since-
We're gonna meet some folks from some additional towns to kind of see what they're doing and flush out where we are.
Perfect, perfect. Sandy?
I think I reported this at the October 1st Board of Selectmen meeting, but
Right.
the Housing for Economic Development Plan Committee approved the study from Patrick and Associates regarding the Woodruff Rollwood property for a possible affordable housing development. There are many steps to go forward. The next immediate step is to bring it to the Board of Selectmen for the next step in the approval process. And that will happen, we hope, at the November 2nd, the second meeting in November 19th Board of Selectmen meeting.
Wonderful. Anybody else? Old business. New business, I've got one item I just want to alert folks to. For those of you who are social media savvy, there was a significant amount of discussion this weekend relative to some parking spaces. This is an old issue. I know, Charlie, you guys dealt with this a couple of years ago.
I couldn't believe it when it came through.
Yeah, and we finally have state approval. It's an interesting thing. The state told us we had to do something, but then we have to actually apply to the state to do what they told us to do. It's the way things work. And it is the removal of the parallel parking spaces in front of the of Cilantro, the tea company, and the Mark, well, the 2 parallel ones. And then there are two vertical ones which are directly in front of Marketplace. And the rationale for same is on the parallel parking spaces, the state has identified those are dangerous and cause a safety concern because they are actually parking spaces in the middle of an intersection. That three-way intersection, which is the most challenging intersection in the
You know what
community.
my biggest concern there, and it was from day one, is that by eliminating those 4 spaces, we're going to create in drivers' minds that that's 2 lanes there. And it is difficult enough to watch 1 lane of traffic. So I hope when they eliminate that, they don't leave that space so that drivers think that there are 2 lanes there.
Right.
Because watching 1 lane is difficult enough.
Yeah, the two.
And that,
Absolutely.
whatever we do,
Tom?
we have to block that or paint it or do
Yeah.
something, make sure cars don't get into a 2-lane
That-
situation.
That has been considered. Tom, Tom, you want to talk about what we're going to be doing with the paint itself?
Yeah, it's gonna, from the corner.
You're gonna have to
Come
come
on,
up.
yeah, come on up. More TV time, Tom, come on.
The camera loves you.
Okay. We have guidelines set up to do a striping from the corner of Water Street back towards the crosswalk.
Right.
And that will take the full length of the parking spaces that are there.
I'm just wondering if painting on the pavement it will be enough. I mean, we're gonna have to keep an eye on it. I really
Right.
think we have to keep an eye on that so that, people don't, one car's going straight and the other one's thinking there's no cars here, so I'm just gonna sneak. Yeah.
That
But,
could happen.
we might end up having to do more than paint at some point.
Well,
But,
there-
Well, there is signage too
There's-
for,
there's-
th-
Not
that's
not
gonna-
only that, is whatever we do is at the mercy of the state of Connecticut. And
Well,
the
that's
plan-
even more worrisome.
Yeah, and the plan has been approved by the state for the lines that we are going to create.
Right, and then there'll be an extension of those lines, 2 parking spaces over
Right.
on the north side of the crosswalk.
Right.
So that gives you a better line of sight. And
Well, that's what's worrisome.
Yeah.
So you're gonna see that line of sight, see all that
Well,
space. People are blind.
Right, I mean, there's nothing you can do about that.
Well,
You could put bollards up, I mean.
I
there's
think
ways
we're
of
gonna
putting
end up
something
having to
up.
put those, we'll see. I mean, all you can do is see. It's a classic example of, unintended consequences. I hope don't happen.
I hear you on
Yeah.
that. yeah.
And just as folks may recall, or may not know, this was precipitated a couple of years ago around the issue of food trucks on the green.
Unintended consequences.
Exactly, unintended consequences. And I also want to just clarify for the record, there was a statement posted on Facebook that was attributed to Brian McGlone that started the basis of the conversation. In fact, it was not all his words. He had sent an email to the affected merchants on Friday as part of our continuing communication plan with the merchants on this issue. That was pasted into some other comments. So it looks as if Brian has made some comments that are inconsistent with the goals of public safety. So I just wanted that clarified for the record. Brian McGlone did not make certain statements that are attributed to him.
As they've appeared on social.
As they
media.
appeared
Yeah,
on a social
thanks
media
for that,
site,
Matt, yeah.
okay? It's important. Anybody have any other questions? Oh, one other thing. We have been engaged, Brian, myself, and Ted Sands from the Economic Development Commission, in negotiations with St. George Church. I think we've talked about this before up here. St. George has agreed to allow the town to utilize 70 parking spaces in their parking lot during the week and weekends. There are some exceptions carved out for when mass goes on. This is at no cost to the town. We are going to have to potentially look at putting in a sidewalk that connects the Maturo property to the church driveway. Those spaces will be used for the downtown businesses' employees only. It is not for customer parking. So the anticipation is that by allowing the employees to park there, that's going to eliminate a significant burden on the tight parking that exists downtown today. So we are pretty close to finalizing that. We have an agreement we have an agreement on the language in the contract, and now we're working on, the last piece of this is somewhat of a sidewalk connection from,
Really gonna have to spell that out with the merchants, because,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know, this
yeah.
has been
Yeah.
attempted before, and I think it's a communication thing that, you know, everyone has to appreciate, you know, if they have those few extra steps,
Yeah.
you know, it's going to benefit them in
Get
the long
benefits
term.
out, that's right. And actually, we've gone to the point where we're gonna have a badging system, where the businesses actually get badges to pass out, to stick in the windshields for their employees, their badges or slash permits, so, but more to come, we're this close to wrapping that up, so. All right, thanks, Tom. Okay, any other new business? No public forum? Anyone wishing to address the board in public forum? Hearing none, item 16, and that is discussion of deep consent order received by the town in executive session will be required. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Call it, question
Who are
all in
we
favor?
inviting?
We're inviting Pam Millman and Janice Plasiak. I don't think there's gonna be a
No.
vote. There's not gonna be a vote, so, yeah. So you're good.
We don't have the consultants?
It's not available.